He immigrated to America with 4 cents in his pocket, a few of his own poems, mathematical computations, and calculations for a flying machine. So already I'm interested. You know what I mean? If someone didn't tell me anything about this person or what their name is, what they invented or didn't invent, if they just started the story of they immigrated to America with these 4 things, I'd be like, who the hell is this? And what are they about to do? And what did they do? Because they did some shit. This is an interesting person. You know, it's giving Uranus in the first. What's good, you guys? Welcome back to Yap Therapy. And today I have a really, really special episode because we are deep diving into a certain person's, as you can tell from the title of the podcast episode, who we are diving into Nikola Tesla's birth chart. And I know in our other videos we have done like chart and chills where we like break down like someone's birth chart. This is different in the sense that I did a lot of research for this particular episode. I already knew about Nikola Tesla because I've watched a lot of documentaries about him and his life and his inventions. And honestly, the sus ways that things played out when it came to his inventions and how the government wanted them and all of that jazz, right? So I was always very much fascinated by him. So I wanted to look at his birth chart. I actually saw an Instagram post recently that was him in his laboratory, and it's honestly such a dope ass picture. I'm going to post it right here. It just makes me feel so many things looking at this picture because it's badass. Like, this dude literally invented wireless electricity, something that we are all using all the time, but he was overshadowed a lot by Thomas Edison. And I can almost guarantee there are plenty of people out there that are watching that know who Thomas Edison is, but have no clue who Nikola Tesla is. And don't you worry, because I am going to give you the tea and we're going to break down his birth chart. But before we get into his birth chart, obviously we have to talk about him and what he did, and then we're going to tie the astrology of it together. So if you are down with this deep dive into someone from history that is super fascinating, and if you're into conspiracy theories, then this is the episode for you, because I am about to blow your mind, teach you shit, and then also make you question the government. Because if you're not already doing that, then there's something deeply wrong with you, and you should start today. You should start after this episode, okay? I'm actually going to post his birth chart right here so you guys can take a look. For the audio listeners, he has a Cancer Sun, Libra Moon, Gemini Mercury, Venus in Cancer, Mars in Libra, Jupiter in Aries, Saturn in Cancer. But some of his placements that I think are super fascinating is the fact that he has Uranus in the first house. So he has Uranus in Taurus, and it's in his first house. So he's very much leading with that Uranus energy. And he also has Chiron in Aquarius. So Chiron is our wounded healer, and Aquarius is the sign that is all about the future and inventions and being ahead of the curve, right? So it's interesting that he has Chiron in Aquarius, and you'll get to understand why. So yeah, that Uranus in the first tied also with Pluto in the first. So he had Uranus and Pluto in the first house. So he was leading with that energy, with that Plutonian energy, and then also with that Uranus energy as well, right? So people definitely have always felt his energy. People couldn't help but notice him. You know, that is a powerful, powerful individual, and his story shows exactly that. So really, let's get into it. Let's yap. I actually don't know what I want to call these segments, but I know it's not going to be the last time that I speak on something like this because I find it to be very fascinating. Obviously, history is interesting. Tying it into astrology and, you know, conspiracy theories is even more interesting. And when I say conspiracy theories, I don't want you guys to always think that what I'm saying is fake because it's a conspiracy theory. Like, I don't know what you guys' relationship is like with conspiracy theories, but conspiracy theories, a lot of them have actually proven to be true. I'm pretty sure the government actually started the term conspiracy theory to kind of gaslight people into thinking that whatever they found out, which was probably true, it actually couldn't be further away from the truth because it's just so crazy. There's no way that's true. That's a conspiracy theory. And it basically invalidates anyone who has proof or stories in regards to these conspiracy theories, because then people can just call them, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like, you're crazy. What you say should not be believed or heard, you know? So conspiracy theories, a lot of them have actually ended up being true. So remember that. So off to our segment. I'm just going to call it the Lost Astro Files for now. I kind of like it. I feel like that's fun. So we are doing the Lost Astro Files of Nikola Tesla. and his birth chart and why it was too powerful for this timeline. So yeah, we're yapping all about Nikola Tesla, the myth, the conspiracies, the power, and of course when I looked up his birth chart, it really made a lot of sense in terms of everything that he went through, everything that he invented, how he was discredited. All of it really made sense. But to get into it, I want you guys to understand that this was a very powerful man. He was the inventor of wireless electricity. But no, that's barely scratching the surface of why this is one of the most fascinating people that you'll learn about today and maybe this year, okay? This man was literally out here trying to give us free energy. Yes, you heard that right, allegedly. I have to say allegedly because with the free energy shit, every time I bring up the free energy and him inventing free energy, wanting to invent free energy, supposedly having done it, I have to say allegedly because there is no proof, right? This man literally, supposedly figured out a way to give the people free energy, and the government and big name billionaires said absolutely not. Allegedly. And why do you ask? You're like, well, why wouldn't they want us to have free energy? And I think I have to ask you, why are you being stupid right now by asking that question? Of course they don't want us to have free energy, because if he was right and he did give us the secret to free energy via his invention and calculations, it wouldn't be able to be monetized, you know? And if we have learned anything about America, it's that America's business is business. You know, all of these, you know, billionaires that are in the pockets of our lawmakers and our government, you know, they're all linked together, right? They're all connected together. So someone like Nikola Tesla, who was way ahead of his time and who was casually about to give us free energy and the secrets of the universe and figure out how to provide free energy for the entire world, he was discredited. And it all just has to do with money, as most things do, because if free energy was invented, then it wouldn't be able to be monetized, you know? So again, this is why he was pulled back and was unable to follow through with this project of his, this project that could have led to free energy, all because, you know, it couldn't have been monetized. I mean, it's so obvious, again, allegedly, but I believe it. Watch enough documentaries and you'll believe it. This dude was a genius, you know? But we'll get more into that later and the details of what really went down later. I'm just going to briefly go through the placements that I'll really get into later, which is his Cancer sun, his Uranus in the 1st, Pluto in the 1st, Chiron in the 10th, and his Aries North Node in the 12th. Obviously, for any birth chart ever, there are endless things that you can talk about. There are endless takes. When I was investigating, when I was researching and learning more about him, these are the placements that stood out to me that I wanted to touch on as it related to his life and everything that he went through and everything that he gave us and how he was treated for it, you know? So these are the placements that I'll really dive into heavily in the episode. He really did come here to change the world, and the world punished him for it because he was way too ahead of his time. And honestly, he didn't want to be bought out, and he didn't allow himself to be bought out. So those two things together, him feeling misunderstood because he was way ahead of his time, him having the morals and the values to not be bought out by, you know, the media and by these billionaires and by the government, it was almost like a recipe for disaster for his life's work, for everything that he was meant to be. You know what I mean? Honestly, it all started with a documentary I saw about him. I was watching it with my man, me and my Pisces man. We are obsessed with any sort of like conspiracy theory, government, alien, whatever. Any sort of, you know, documentary as it relates to these things we are obsessed with. Obviously, also, we both have air moons. So I'm a Gemini moon. He's an Aquarius moon. So we are really, truly so fascinated by anything like that. And also, I feel like I was just so excited to get into this topic because you guys know I'm a Scorpio stellium. If you're new here, yes, I'm a Scorpio stellium. Scorpio is ruled by the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of, you know, the occult and secrets and power. And what is all of that and more? Conspiracy theories, history, you know, things that were hidden, his files that were hidden by the government. So many fascinating secrets, so many inventions, just so much power and control that was displayed in his lifetime. So yeah, when we were watching one of the documentaries that I saw of him, and obviously do not quote me on this exactly, but they were talking about how he might have figured out dimension hopping. Yes, you heard that right. Like interdimensional equations. That's the type of shit that he was on. And now those papers are just missing. Yes, you heard that right. Those papers are just missing. I'm sorry, but it's giving he knew too much. It's giving he had the potential to change the world as we know it. He did, by the way, by inventing, wireless electricity. But there was so much more untapped potential and tapped potential because he had those equations. And when I tell you the story of what happened with all of his paperwork, you're going to be mind blown, So it really does give the energy of this man was so ahead of his time. And this man was going to give us all the secrets to the universe, but the government and people in positions of power were too scared of him and his power. He was out here building towers to wirelessly charge the earth to give us free energy. Like, do you know how mind-boggling that is? He was also communicating with outer space through frequency. And also he was obsessed with the numbers 3, 6, and 9. 3, 6, 9. Damn, girl. Yeah, actually that song in particular, the muse for that song was Nikola Tesla. I'm just kidding. Numbers 3, 6, and 9. He swore that they held the secrets to the universe and that they were the key to the universe. And then boom, out of nowhere, you die alone in a hotel room and the government comes in and swoops all of your paperwork. It's giving suspicious. If that's not already making you think about this a little bit too long, and you're like, but why? Then you're not doing any thinking at all. So truly, yeah, I just felt called to talk about his story and to relate it to astrology. Like I said, any sort of conspiracy theory, I'm in it. But what's different about this one is that it's an underdog thing. You know what I mean? It's a story about power, control, and manipulation. He was really an underdog. For someone that was so powerful, invented wireless electricity, it's like he did not get the credit that he deserves, and I hate that. So when I say it's an underdog thing, that's what I'm talking about. It seems to be a common occurrence in this world, in this country, Like there's just way too many coincidences of people getting too close to the truth, or people, smart, normal people, smart, you know what I mean? People that are inventing, these technologies that could change the world, you know what I mean? There's so many stories of these type of individuals, the government finding them, using them, and then discarding them. It's a common occurrence, and I hate that. It makes me sick to my stomach. And I feel like their stories deserve to be lived on and they should be talked about more. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. Okay, so for his early life, he was actually Serbian by blood, but he was born in modern day Croatia and he immigrated to America in 1884. And he actually came to New York with 4 cents in his pocket, a few of his own poems, mathematical computations, and calculations for a flying machine. Did you guys hear everything I just listed? Because they were the most random things ever. So I'm going to say it again in case you were not paying attention, because this is truly fascinating stuff. He immigrated to America with 4 cents in his pocket, a few of his own poems, mathematical computations, and calculations for a flying machine. So already I'm interested. You know what I mean? If someone didn't tell me anything about this person or what their name is, what they invented or didn't invent, if they just started the story of they immigrated to America with these 4 things, I'd be like, who the hell is this? And what are they about to do? And what did they do? Because they did some shit. This is an interesting person. It's giving Uranus in the first. When you have Uranus in the first, there's just something different about you. You know what I mean? It's giving random Uranus in the first things. And it's like, sir, your identity is confusing, but like very fascinating to me. And I have Uranus in the first, so I understand. Like, my identity is ever changing, and I'm so comfortable with it, and I'm okay with it, and I hate when people box me into things. Like, I hate that more than anything. And when you have Uranus in the first, or when you have an Aquarius rising, you know what I'm talking about. You hate being told that you're this, because your identity is always changing, right? Uranus is a planet of surprise, so you're always willing to change. You're always willing to surprise people. What new thing you're into, what new identity you've taken on, So yeah, already a very interesting individual. And then this is, when he briefly worked for Thomas Edison. It's crazy how Tesla died broke. He was financially broke. And Edison got all of this glory. You know what I mean? He's in the textbooks and all of that jazz, right? But Tesla does not get the love that he deserves. And as you learn more about his story, you'll come to understand why it seems like he was not popularized as much as Thomas Edison. So, like I said, one of his biggest accomplishments ever is that he invented wireless electricity. So, that is why that picture of him in his lab is so fucking sick. Like I think it's one of the coolest pictures ever. Tesla's ideas on wireless power and communication has literally influenced modern technologies like our Wi-Fi, what you're using to watch this, wireless charging, and obviously a lot of long distance communication. So he truly changed our world. He was a genius in his own right. And during his time, of course, he was seen as brilliant. He invented wireless electricity, but he was also seen as erratic. Again, Uranus in the first things. He was secretive, Pluto in the first things, and didn't document a lot of his inventions in traditional scientific ways that most people would. And he also didn't want to collaborate with mainstream institutions. So a lot of this is giving, I don't want to be controlled. You can't tame me. I am my own individual. And I think the whole idea that he doesn't want to sell out obviously can be tied to his Libra moon as well as his Pluto and Uranus in the first, right? Because Libra moons more than anything value justice and fairness. And obviously when it came to him, justice and fairness were always matters close to his heart. So he was never going to sell out, you know? And again, he was way ahead of his time, and that tied with his secretive, lonesome energy. The government didn't know what to do with him. You know what I mean? Because if you really think about it, if you really sit there and think about it, when you are super, super smart, when you are inventing shit that other people haven't even thought about before, and you're doing it at such a fast pace, it would be so much easier for the government if you were easier to control. You know what I mean? But he had Uranus in the first. He had Pluto in the first. He was never going to be controlled. It would be the government's wet dream if someone was that smart and was inventing shit and was working for them. You know what I mean? So to have someone that is doing their own thing and is not easily controlled, where, you know, you're forcing them to give your work to the government, of course the government is always going to see you as a threat, because yeah, you would have just made their lives a lot easier if you are someone that can easily fold, you know? But he was not that person. He was not going to fold. And again, the government knew that this was someone that was very smart and had the potential to give them great power, but also because he was not easily controlled and he was not easily bought out, he was dangerous to them because he was always going to do his own thing. And the government hates that. Let's be honest, you guys. The government, especially in this country, the millionaires that run this country, more than anything, they want followers. You know what I mean? That's why it's the 99% against the 1%. The 99%. What are we doing? We're in this rat race, most of us. And a lot of us are trying to get out of it. And I love that for us. But I think a lot of people are stuck in it. A lot of people just cannot get out of it. And I think it's absolute bullshit, because everyone that is working at these corporations is literally working tirelessly to make someone else's dream come true. You know, they're getting paid minimum wage, or not even a livable wage, you know, even if it's not minimum wage. A lot of people are hustling and they're not getting the money that they deserve, while the executive team and the CEO and the founder and the board of directors, they're on their private jets, you know, running back and forth. But you're the one killing the earth. You know, us regular people, we're the ones killing the earth. And if you just stop using plastic straws, and if you were to just stop eating less red meat, you have the power to change the planet. It's just crazy how they put that shit on us when they're out here doing whatever the hell they want, you know? So I just think it's so important to remember that a lot of times, a lot of the decisions that are made for us via our government and via these corporations has to do with how good you are at being a follower. And if you think about it, actually, I forgot where I learned this. I learned that in certain districts for schools, the ones that are more wealthy, they're teaching the kids how to be leaders. Whereas in most public schools, you are taught to be a follower. And if you really think about it, it's so fucked up, because yeah, the kids that are going to these private schools or that are from these rich neighborhoods, their parents are rich. Their parents are probably executives. So of course, they're putting their kids in these schools that are going to turn them into leaders, because once they grow up, they're the ones running shit. Whereas us normal people that go to public school, well, we're taught to follow directions, because if you start having your own mind, you are not easily controlled. And that makes you very, very dangerous dangerous for a government like ours. That makes you very, very dangerous for these corporations, because as long as you put your head down and you do what you're told, you're not a threat to them. Now, Nikola Tesla, he was someone that was very special. He was someone that was so smart and so ahead of his time, but he refused to be controlled. He refused to be bought out. And because of that, his story turned sour. Because of that, he was not given the flowers that he should have received all this time and moving forward. Okay, let's talk about the Wardenclyffe Tower. This is one of the most important aspects of his story. So he designed and built the Wardenclyffe Tower, also known as the Tesla Tower, which was the anchor of his study to prove that we, in fact, can have and can use free energy. Tesla intended to use the Wardenclyffe Tower as the prototype for a global wireless communication and power system. He envisioned using Earth itself as a giant conductor to transmit messages and music and news and even images, essentially transmit electrical energy without using any wires, which is just mind-blowing, right, at the time. And again, he is using the Earth's natural energy to be able to do this. Hence, cough, cough, free energy, right? Because if we're using what the Earth already has available to us to do this, it is free. It is free energy. He ultimately had to shut the project down due to low funding. Like I said, all of a sudden, there was no funding left for this project. Crazy that when he got this close to giving us free energy, giving the world free energy, the funding stopped. Hella sus, let's be honest, because his idea was groundbreaking, you know? So it makes you wonder why. Why was the funding suddenly stopped? What happened for the funding to be stopped? His wireless energy tech was not only a threat to the energy industry, big name billionaires, because if free energy was real and utilized, they wouldn't be able to monetize it because it's free, because it's coming from the Earth. So the conspiracy theory is that this project was intentionally suppressed, all because it couldn't be monetized. So I know you guys are wondering, well, who was investing in it? You know, who was the main investor in this project? Oh, you may know the name JP Morgan. I know you do. So let's be fucking honest. JP Morgan probably, allegedly, removed the funding and the support for this particular project because he realized that free energy could not be monetized. Because it's all about money when it comes to these power-hungry billionaires, you guys.
Allegedly.
You know, because to all these billionaires, money is everything. And if something cannot be monetized to these power-hungry, money-hungry billionaires, then it has no value. And if somehow, you know, the people introduced to this idea of free energy and that it is available to us, this would be horrible for the people that are using, you know, the energy industry to get rich. You know, it's taking away a mass chunk of their income because now something that they were monetizing and will continue to monetize because people don't know any better is going to be taken away from them, you know? So again, Tesla was a threat to them. And that is just a question that we all have. Anyone who, you know, is interested in Tesla and his story, all of these documentaries, did the government suppress free energy? Which is a valid question when, you know, big money is involved. Even though his work was so groundbreaking, Tesla often dealt with a lot of financial difficulties, and he really struggled to find and secure the funding that he needed for his projects to continue and to thrive, right? And many of his ideas were way ahead of the curve and ahead of their time. And it led to a lot of skepticism when it came to potential investors for his project, right? Like besides the whole like them wanting to suppress free energy because it can't be monetized, a lot of his ideas in general, like I said, were way ahead of his time. So investors felt like it was too risky to invest in them, right? And also his reluctance to focus on commercial viability and his tendency to prioritize innovation over profit. It really did contribute to his financial woes because he could have easily secured all the money if he just, you know, sold out a little bit, you know, like most people would, but he stayed true to his values and refused to work with just anybody. You know, he refused to give his power away or to give his work away all for a check. And that led to him not having, the finances that he needed to continue to thrive, and continue to further his projects and experiments, right? He refused to be bought out multiple times, and that decision, cost him fame, fortune, and long-term stability, which is why I feel like we need to talk about his story more, because I think he was such a powerful man and he had the potential to give us something that was never done before. And because he didn't, and because there's just so many secrets tied to his story, he is not talked about enough, right? And even though it sucks that he has been overshadowed, I think a big part of his legacy that we will never forget is that he is someone that chose innovation and chose his own values over profit, which cannot be said for a lot of people, you guys. It cannot be said. It is rare and few in between when it comes to people who are willing to stay true to their values, who are not selling out, even though they are offered fame and money and power. They refuse. They refuse to sell out. And I think people like that, they need to be talked about more in history, but sadly, they're not. Okay, now let's get into the fun stuff, which to me is his fascination with 369 and also the dimension hopping theories. Because let's be honest, his whole story with free energy and how he was discredited and how his project was defunded, something about it makes me really depressed. Like, that is what really pulled me to his story, is when I learned about that. Because it just, I don't know, it does things to me. It just hurts my soul and my heart when I hear stories about people that had the potential to change the world, who were silenced and who were taken away from us too soon and too early, and who we will never know the full story of, because I think there's so much that we still don't know about that man, and it's all because he was way ahead of his time, and he just wanted to give us free energy, god damn it. He wanted to help the people out. But anyway, so that part of his story does make me really depressed, but it's still such an important part of his story. So obviously we were going to discuss it. But now getting into some of the really fun stuff, like I said, which is his obsession with the numbers 3, 6, and 9, and also these dimension hopping theories. So anyway, yes, so he said that basically these 3 numbers were the keys to the universe. I actually read somewhere that apparently he would circle a building 3 times before he entered it. Now, I don't know if that is, something that's crazy that we all need to be doing, or if he had OCD or what, but I found that to be very, very interesting. And another conspiracy theory about him is that he was supposedly working on some dimension hopping equations, right? Not specifically dimension hopping, but dimension hopping adjacent. I'll give you more info and then you can put 2 and 2 together. So one of the direct quotes that we have from him is that if you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe. These numbers inspire theories about his understanding of the universe's patterns, right? So really, really important stuff. His work has also been linked to concepts like vortex mathematics and theories about accessing alternate dimensions or energies, hence dimension hopping. It's giving dimension hopping, in my opinion. And also he had all these theories about energy fields and portals and frequencies that could have unlocked so much in our lifetime, Maybe it has already been unlocked. We don't know where some of his paperwork is, just by our government itself. Maybe they took his paperwork and they unlocked it and they're not telling us about it. I mean, honestly, I believe that. 99% of me believes that. Our government is like 10 steps ahead of us when it comes to inventions. They just don't share it with the regular public. Truly, they don't. He also claimed that he was receiving communication from other planets. So sometime in the 1890s, he was actually working with some radio equipment in Colorado Springs, and he claimed that he received these extraterrestrial signals, strange repeating frequencies from beyond. He was talking to them aliens. Let's be honest, he was. And later he actually wrote that the transmissions were purposeful and not just some random static. Now let's get into what the US government did to Nikola Tesla, allegedly. I just have to say allegedly because a girl's trying to stay safe out here. It ain't safe. It was the height of World War II. Crazy time for the world, and Tesla at this time had claimed to have invented a powerful particle beam weapon named as the death ray. It doesn't get more dramatic than that, you guys. He said it could destroy aircraft from hundreds of miles away, which proved to be invaluable, I would say, during that ongoing conflict. You know, you could really be in a position of power if you had this death ray. Come on now. In the 1930s and early 40s, Tesla tried to sell this invention, this death ray invention, to several governments. And it wasn't just the US, it was also the UK, the Soviet Union, and the US wasn't feeling it. They really were not fully able to take him up on it, but they were definitely watching, you know, because this is a very powerful invention. But for some reason, they didn't take him up on it. They didn't buy it from him. So rather than risk Tesla's technology being bought, you know, by one of America's enemies, right? The government swooped in and took possession of all the property and documents from his room in New York City after he died. So that's really how it went down. Essentially, a day after he died of natural causes, because he was older. But yeah, they said it was natural causes. A day after he died in New York in a hotel room, the government came in and swooped all of his paperwork and all of his studies. So this was in 1943 that he died, right? And it was the U.S. Office of Alien Property that seized all of his belongings, all of his property and documents. He was a naturalized U.S. citizen, and that alone raised a lot of eyebrows, because why do you have the ability or the need to go and take all of this man's documents? What is in there that is so important that you have to break into his room and take everything that he has? His life's work, honestly. So these fuckers, I'm sorry, I meant the reps from the Office of Alien Property, took his notes, his blueprints, his inventions, especially the ones that were connected to this so-called death ray, which is just so funny because you didn't want it. You didn't want to buy it. But as soon as he died the next day, you were very, very interested in these documents, right? And his inventions, right? And it's just not a coincidence. It's just not a coincidence, because he invented something so powerful and was about to give us free energy, but they didn't want that. The government didn't want that for us. The billionaires didn't want that because they couldn't make money off of it. Really, he was doomed from the start, because he had no idea that the country he was immigrating to, zero values. It's all about money here. Let's be honest, you guys. And, you know, because it was World War II also, they weren't about to let something that powerful, you know, fall into an enemy's hands, which I understand, but also you should have bought it from the man and you should have given him what he deserved. And it's just fucked up because you should have bought it from the man and you should have given him the money that he deserved. His mind was so ahead of its time. He was so powerful. He was so intelligent. He deserved more. He really did deserve so much more than what was done to him and what was given to him. But here is where it gets a little messy. And you're like, what you mean a little messy? It's been messy from the jump. I agree. It has been messy. It's been fucked up. It's been interesting. It's been fascinating. But really, it's been messy. But really, it's about to get messier. Because like I said, Tesla's files, the files that the government took, boom, vanished. Literally vanished. Only some were returned to his family. And the FBI records say that there were 80 trunks of material of his files, and only 60 made it to the Tesla Museum in Serbia, because like I said, he is Serbian, right? And the rest, they either were magically compressed into fewer trunks, don't believe it, or quietly absorbed by the US government, you know, by their classified programs, because we like to take shit from people and not give them credit. Now enter John G. Trump. Yes, you heard that right. I know you just got some shakes, some shivers. You're like, Trump, oh no, what's happening here? Yes, Donald Trump's uncle. Yeah, he has a place in this story. So just when you thought it couldn't get any more eerie and weird, yep, the Trump family is stepping in. So Donald Trump's uncle, John G. Trump, he was a respected MIT scientist. Respected and Trump should not be in the same sentence, but we are not talking about that right now. So he was a respected MIT scientist. He was asked to review all of Tesla's paperwork and his findings and his inventions and publicly declare their validity, right? So this was his job to do, right? Before I even learned what happened next, I was already feeling uneasy because I'm like, I ain't gonna trust what he's gonna say. And I'll let you make your own decisions. The very important job of determining whether they contained any, ideas of significant value. So basically going through Tesla's shit to be like, is he the real deal? Was he really inventing all this shit? He really have all these equations and inventions that could have potentially changed our entire world. And what happened is, Dr. John G. Trump reported that Tesla's efforts were, quote, primarily of a speculative, philosophical, and promotional character, and said the papers did not include new sound, workable principles, or methods for realizing such results. Basically, he discredited him. He said that his shit stinks and none of this shit is true. Such bullshit, truly, because I don't believe it for a second. It's fucked up that this man that the government probably allegedly, bought out and told to tell the world that Tesla's work isn't of value, that it's not real, and that it's all just woo-woo and one big brain dream, and that it should not be looked at as something of value, right? Nothing usable is here, which is so sus. Like, this man is so smart, has already shown us how smart he is, was already in cahoots with people in positions of power in the government, billionaires, but suddenly everything he worked on, none of it is actually usable and none of it is actually true and none of it makes any sense. No, that is hella sus. And the fact that it ties into Trump and his family, already mind-blowing, and already I don't believe anything that this Dr. John G. Trump said. Do you believe him? Because I sure as hell don't. And you know who else didn't agree? A lot of other people. A lot of people actually disagreed with John G. Trump's evaluation. Military insiders actually believed that Tesla's particle beam tech, the death ray, that big invention, had real potential. And the FBI actually released files in 2016 that proved FDR's inner circle was discussing Tesla's wireless energy transmission and death ray projects before his death, and maybe even wanted to meet up with him, So it's just crazy that it's like, oh, nothing that he said or wrote is credible, but also the FBI releases these files that prove that the government actually was taking his project seriously enough to want to meet with him. They wouldn't meet with him if his shit didn't make sense. You know what I mean? They wouldn't meet with him if he didn't prove to them that he was capable of creating these things. They didn't want it to get into the hands of anyone else, so the government allegedly took it. I mean, I wasn't there. What I would do to be a fly on the wall with those initial meetings of him meeting up with the government, or telling them about free energy and what he's trying to do and showing them the blueprints of this death ray. And also, let's not forget about that flying machine, because that's a whole nother story that we need to get into. Maybe, he just didn't willingly want to hand it over to the government. Maybe he changed his mind, because at first he was trying to go around and sell it to someone. Maybe in the end he realized that, yeah, he just shouldn't have sold it. Maybe his intuition told him that they would do terrible things with his inventions. Who knows how it went down, but boy, would I love to know. So it's fascinating. It's so fascinating that till this day, some of his papers are very much still missing. And also the US government's interest in his inventions till this day continues to fuel suspicions from me, from everybody, that, Tesla's tech was way more powerful than we would ever realize. Now I just feel like I threw a whole lot of information at you. I hope you're still with me, because I know that was a lot, but I hope it was interesting. I think it's very, very interesting stuff. And I know your brain is going back and forth trying to put the pieces together, and you're suspicious of what really went down, right? But now let's tie it to his birth chart, because we just learned a lot, but his astrology actually mixes very well with what we just learned, right? So he had a Cancer sun. So obviously what we know about Cancer suns is that they want to take care of people. They know how to take care of people. And this wasn't just an inventor. He was a healer in his own way. He wanted to nurture humanity. He created so much for us. And sadly, before he had the option or the ability to create more, he was taken from us too soon. and, you know, his inventions and his paperwork that could have helped other people create his inventions, they were taken from us. And I wholeheartedly believe that they're being used by, you know, our government. I really, really do. He also had Uranus in the first, right? So this made him deeply ahead of his time, and people couldn't help but lock in on him and his innovative identity. He embodied disruption. That is very much obvious, and people really don't know what to do with someone who lived 100 years ahead of their time. That's usually how it goes. First, they make fun of you, and then they copy you. That's literally always how it goes. And it wasn't just what he made, it was who he was that shook them, right? This is someone with great power. This is someone that's super smart, but he wasn't like everyone else because he wasn't willing to be bought out like everyone else. He also had Chiron in Aquarius in the 10th house of career and reputation. He was always going to be misunderstood or villainized by the public or his place of work for his innovative approach, which is exactly what happened. Funny enough, the very thing that put him on the map, aka 10th house, in the first place also became the thing that wounded him. So thank you, Chiron, for that. A wound around his literal legacy. His ideas weren't just rejected, they were taken and twisted and then used decades later without any credit. It's fucked up. This is textbook Chiron in the 10th pain, you know, public wounding, but also a lot of cosmic impact because of that Aqua and Uranus energy, right? He was way ahead of his time when it came to what the public could barely even comprehend, you know? And he also had that North Node in Aries in the 12th house. His destiny in this lifetime was always going to be tied to his subconscious beliefs and powers that have yet to be seen in this 3D realm, right? Since it was in Aries, he was always meant to be the initiator, the one that was always pushing the collective to see beyond what they thought reality was, which is powerful stuff. He was supposed to tap into the void and into the invisible, 12th house shit, and bring it into form in this world. It's also giving a lot of psychic downloads, in my opinion. I personally think we're all receiving, you know, downloads from our spirit guides, but 12th house placements, your downloads are just louder and probably easier to detect. And I think that was the case for him. Tesla wasn't just smart. He was a channel. He was tapped into a realm of knowing that transcended logic. He was definitely breaking all of these barriers in this world because of how he was able to easily communicate with higher powers through his intuition, right? The 12th house. And then afterwards, he was meant to create what this world needed based on the messages that he was receiving from another world through his intuition. Also, the transition from Neptune and Pisces to Aries recently is echoing this familiar energy. What he was doing back then, we're just barely ready to understand it now. A lot of times we don't believe what we don't see, right? Like that is just a fact. And also that North Node and Aries shit, he was always ahead of the curve. Literally was inventing free energy. I believe he did. You can believe whatever you want, but I truly do. And it would have completely changed our world forever. But because he wasn't interested in capitalism or control, they wrote him off as eccentric, right? They devalued him. A man who wanted to give power to the people got buried by the ones who wanted to own it. A tale as old as time. All right, you guys, that is the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment your thoughts below. I would love to hear what you have to say. I know this was a deep dive, but I hope you really, really enjoyed it. And if you want me to talk about more people, comment their names down below because I will deep dive for you. So anyway, I love you guys. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and I'll see you next week. Bye, you guys.